The OC have solved their Rhea problem. Mia Yim has joined the OC, returning to WWE. We're going to talk about her return and everything else that happened this week in Black Wrestling in just a second. So stay tuned. This is WrstlXtra.
Yo, this is WrstlXtra. I'm your boy, A Dazzle, the Black Wrestling Advocate. As always, joined by my tag team partner, Mix, the WrestleManiac. And of course, it is the first of the month. So we have the bona fide man that is Gerard Bonner. Guys, I know my surroundings look a little bit different. No, I'm not in, I'm not in the basement of my parents' room, my parents' house. I've been kicked out the normal studio because there's recordings going on. It was double booked and all the rest of it. So we just have to make it work how we do. I don't usually wear white headphones. I don't like the look of this.
Everything changed today, boy.
Everything. New mic, new headphones, just everything. But here we are. Speaking of changes, come on. Mia Yim has kind of silenced all the rumor mills and all the rest of it, and has made her return back to WWE, not to AEW with her husband Keith Lee, but back, I guess, to a point where she always wanted to be. She always wanted to be in WWE. Her dreams came true a few years back. Unfortunately, about a year or so ago, she was let go. And there was always this talk of Mia Yim returning because of, with Triple H in charge. He was the one that signed her after her popularity rose during the Mae Young Classic. And so the second we found out that she was leaving Impact, I think it was more likely. I mean, both options were very likely, whether it be WWE because of Triple H or AEW because that's where her husband is as well. So both options were actually very, very likely to happen. But she's returned in a little bit of an unexpected way in joining the OC. I think I expected Mia Yim, any kind of return to WWE would be her on her own, doing her own thing and, making a name for herself on her own all over again. But I find it very interesting for her to be part of the OC with AJ Styles, Doc Gallows, Carl Anderson. And she is there to be the solution to the Rhea Ripley problem. Gerard, I'm going to go to you first. Is the head baddie in charge going to be the problem, the solution to the Rhea Ripley problem?
So I want to be very, very clear. First and foremost, I am glad to see Mia Yim back in the WWE. Her run in NXT I thought was really, really solid, and I thought it was certainly going to lead to a special run on the main roster. Of course, Retribution kind of squashed all of that and did not make that work for her at all. I love a good redemption story where she's obviously able to come back, because this is just a great, great thing. And quite frankly, as crazy as it sounds for her to be as part of the OC, I think her being paired up with Rhea Ripley speaks highly of Mia Yim. I think it really, really does. Given all of the people that are currently in WWE, you could argue that Rhea is kind of at the top of the food chain. She's in a different space. You've got Bianca with what Bianca does on the women's roster. But Rhea's ability to make a whole male faction get over, that's special. It's absolutely special. So the fact that they bring Mia in for that is fantastic. I love that Mia is back in the WWE. But to answer your question, I want to be very, very clear. There is no solution for the Rhea Ripley problem.
That's
I want to
why
be
I like this guy.
Extremely clear, okay? Mia is nice. I like being the head baddie in charge. It's all cute. Come in and wear your hoodies. Come in and be disguised. Rock your blue hair. Take the guys out to dinner. Do all of that. But you will never solve the Rhea Ripley problem. There's no cheat code. There is no solution. Rhea Ripley stands on her own as one of one. Mia is not the solution.
Hallelujah, amen. Because I think the exact same thing. There is nobody. It's almost like Rhea. For me, Rhea is almost like it's like liking Rhea Ripley to a Brock Lesnar, for example.
Yes,
like, that's so high above everyone else in the way she is. The way she carries herself, the way her presence, all of that, to where you're like, who realistically is gonna overcome Rhea Ripley? Really? I mean, it makes a level of sense if you want to kind of look at the details, if you want to try and find all sorts of different little things. It makes some level of sense that it's Mia Yim. Mia Yim has a strong history of also facing guys on the indies as well. She kind of made her name that way just before she joined the WWE. She's got this swag about her, and as Gerald was saying, the way she dresses, the way she comes across, especially with the Timberland boots, all the rest of it. She's got that swag to make you think, right, she can go toe to toe with Rhea or with any of the other guys in the Judgment Day. Mex, let me ask you this question. So we've got these two factions of 4, 3 men, one female in both of them. War Games is coming up. Do we see 4 versus 4? And if we do, will the women be able to face the men?
I mean, that would be something to make Survivor Series special. Like you just said, we've seen over the last few weeks Rhea Ripley's credentials when it comes to that particular art. Mia Yim has made a history of, delving in that field. It would be something special. Do WWE have the cojones to do it? That's another case. It's on pay-per-view, maybe they can run it a couple of spots here and there and get away with it. Especially if it's the women, doing actions on the men rather than the other way around. They could probably get away with something like that. But I'm not sure where this goes. We obviously at Crown Jewel, we've just had a 3-on-3 match. Obviously, Rhea wasn't involved in that. At Survivor Series, they could just opt to do like a traditional Survivor Series match, including the women. But of course, the women can then only face the women. So, I mean, you get faced with that issue again. I would have loved to just put them all in War Games and just let them pull each other apart. But I don't think that's gonna happen. We've already seen the formation of like Bianca calling out War Games, and we'll talk about that later. I think the lazy thing that they're probably gonna do is put Rhea in with Bayley's team and put Mia in with Bianca's team, so they can have their feud kind of play out in the War Games match. It's very lazy, but at the same time, it's very WWE. But yeah, just on Mia Yim coming back. You mentioned obviously the pull of AEW with her husband over there, Keith Lee, and then Triple H being a factor. And from what I have seen out of Mia Yim in the past, this is all Triple H.
Oh yeah.
Like, her husband could have been like, "Oh no, come AEW," and everything. She's like, "Sorry, I don't care." Like, I think it's like a 2-part or a 3-part, like little vlog documentary thing that she done on her channel, on her Twitch or something like that. It's on YouTube now, so after this, everyone should check it out.
Okay.
This woman speaks of NXT and her time at NXT like literally it is the gates of heaven, and nothing at that time went wrong in NXT. Like everyone loved it, everyone was friends. She always refers to herself as she never thought she would be a champion or anything like that. I'm just a good hand. She calls herself a good hand, which is often obviously used as a bit of a derogatory term in the business. She just seems like someone that wants to wrestle. She says she sees herself as a mid-carder, a good hand, and she's just grateful to be there. Like even the fact, if you guys remember back to her War Games, the original War Games, she was meant to be in that match, and I think she got taken out backstage and they replaced her or something. But she still speaks fondly of that. Like I was part of that. Like the first women's War Games. This Triple H can do no wrong for this woman. Like so. She was always going to return given the opportunity. like Gerard said, I just think Rhea Ripley's on a different planet right now. Like where Bianca, if we're talking about rankings and going after the women's championship, Bianca is head and shoulders above everyone in that kind of separate division, if you like. In terms of people that just have singular stories away from championships, Rhea Ripley is head and shoulders above everyone. And they've even now crossed eyes in the back, Rhea Ripley and Belair.
Yeah.
So Mia Yim, I don't know if she's not the problem solver, that's for sure. No. I don't know how they're going to play it out on TV. I would have preferred if they're going to do some type of Survivor Series match or something. Maybe the OC should have just brought back Edge and Beth Phoenix. She mocked Beth Phoenix the other day at Crown Jewel with the hair and everything. And then, Beth Phoenix can lose to Rhea Ripley and then move on and never come back or whatever the case is. Like with Mia Yim, to take such maybe a high profile loss early on, I don't know what that does for her.
I think there's a way you can get around that. I don't think it's all doom and gloom for Mia Yim. As we've said, because Rhea Ripley's so far ahead, it would be okay for her to lose to Rhea. It would make sense. It's what people would expect. Let's be real. So I don't think it would necessarily go against Mia Yim to lose to her. In terms of what I see happening with both factions, I kind of see it. I think this would be the lazy thing, to have it be 3-on-3 and the ladies are just on the outside still. That would be the lazy thing. And I actually wouldn't be too surprised if that happened. But it's just the kind of it's more of a numbers thing, just to even the odds. So while Rhea's probably going to try doing something to AJ Styles, Mia Yim comes in and stops her and attacks her or something. I'm expecting that to happen.
That's a Raw match. They can do that on Raw.
Right.
But I think if we get to like a pay-per-view or like some type of featured match, or if they're going to pull it in a main event of Raw, at least the women have to be involved.
Yeah. I would say the same thing, but I wouldn't be surprised if it wasn't that way. And that would be the safest way. Still very lazy, but the safest way to protect Mia Yim on this big return. But even still, as I said, even if she lost to Rhea or was on the losing team or something like that, or even if she was part of the decision to where Rhea pins Mia Yim, I don't think it's the end of the world it wouldn't be the end of the world for Mia Yim. She could still do other stuff and face other people and have a run with that, to be fair. But yeah, to answer the big question, to answer the main question, there is no way. I don't care. You could have been Sasha Banks. There is no way anybody is solving the Rhea Ripley problem for any time soon. And for me, I've said this for weeks. I think I said it once on this show at some point. But I really think, I know we're still kind of doing this thing where Finn Balor is the leader. I really think they need to make sure. And I've kind of hinted at it on commentary a couple of times, but I think they really need to make sure people understand Rhea Ripley is the leader.
Absolutely.
Not the leader, as they've said on commentary, but the leader of the Judgment Day. I think that would just speak volumes. It's something different. It's so believable. It's so easy to do. It's so different. I think it really needs to happen. And it would then put Rhea on such a pedestal to the level of when she comes for Bianca.
Yeah. I think a couple of things. One, I think they dropped a little breadcrumb last night when they had the two of them just kind of pass by each other in the hallway. It was like, oh, okay, this is where we're going. But you're right. In terms of doing something different, I think she would have the opportunity, she being Rhea, would have the opportunity to do something that nobody else has done. We've not seen a woman lead a faction of men.
Right.
We've not seen it, and I don't mean like, Alexandra York or a woman like that. I mean like someone who can put it down in the ring. You know what I mean? So it's one of those really special things. And to go back to Mia Yim, here's the deal. There's so much room between the top of the food chain and the bottom of the food chain in the women's division in WWE that Mia Yim has plenty of places to fit. Right. So a loss here, but putting her at, say, upper echelon of the mid card is still a massive win. I think there are definitely ways to do this, which is why I say they speak highly of Mia if her entry is the otherworldly Rhea Ripley at this point,
Right.
you know?
Right.
So that's a really good thing. Where they go with all of this, I think it'll be interesting to see. And we'll talk about the War Games theory later because I have another theory. But yeah,
I do agree though that this is where people in general should be debuted in important spots, because you debut them in some joke mid-card place, like, you know, the sinking is always going to happen, but depending where you debut them, it will happen faster. Like even Emma, like for instance, Ronda Rousey. I don't have much stock in Emma, but she debuts in a championship match. It helps. It goes away. Like you're saying, Mia Yim debuting in this strong position with someone that we as fans can see is being booked very well. It definitely helps. My only thing is I'm not sure they want Judgment Day to have a leader, because ultimately that's why they kicked out Edge. I think that Triple H is too fond of the likes of Finn Balor and Damian Priest to have a woman necessarily leading them. Although I do think he's very fond of Rhea Ripley as well.
Yeah, of course. No, of course.
Yeah.
Just to end this just a little bit, just to touch on something you mentioned before, Mex, about, you know, the way Mia Yim saw herself in NXT and just being in the WWE in general. You know, whichever way it goes from here for her, in terms of, you know, beating Rhea or what happens after this match or their confrontation or the rest of it, I think she will just be happy to be there. You can even just look at her last run in Impact, to where when she came back as a former Knockouts champion, she's come back and everyone thought, oh, she's going to win the championship and blah, blah, blah. Yeah. She never did. She was there, and almost every match that she had was against the current women's champion. So you had Deonna Purrazzo, Tasha Steele. She's in the first Queen of the Mountain match. And then her last big match, there was a match that she had against Eddie Edwards' wife. But a match was against Mickie James during her, you know, Mickie James doing his whole last ride tour, whatever it's called. And she lost to Mickie James as well. So she definitely is that type of person who just loves to be there. She just loves to be involved, and she's happy to do that, and that's good. Some may argue that's not ambitious enough, maybe, and that's probably why she'll never get up there. Who knows? But at the same time, for when you have that type of person on your roster, no one's complaining. You can do with them whatever you need to, whatever you want to. They'll be happy to do it. And you know, you're laughing, I guess. You know what I mean? It's no egos involved.
We all go to work, with people that are just happy to be there.
Right.
They're happy to have a job, wake up in the morning, go to somewhere away for 7 hours, speak to a couple people, earn a paycheck. Don't want a promotion. That'll be too much work. They're happy. And this is after, especially watching her vlogs and stuff, that just seems like she clearly loves wrestling. And WWE was maybe something she just never fathomed was ever going to happen for her. And she's now got a second chance at it. And she is just happy to just do whatever, be booked half decently, and be involved. Like the way when she described being taken out of the first ever women's War Games match, but she was just happy she was involved in the story.
Wow.
I said, you are so content with life. Like I can, like being at that kind of peace with things it must be incredible. Even though some people, yes, they aspire for more. They want to enter the War Games match. They want to be the one that gets the final elimination, whatever the case is. She was just happy she was in the history. She's written in the story somewhere.
Wow.
So, all
that's
power
amazing.
to her. Yeah.
Oh Lord. And that's not to say she doesn't want to be higher, doesn't want to, you know what I mean, achieve more. It's not that at all. It's just understanding. I think it's also this is just understanding your place, or understanding that you have to put the work in first to then go to the top. So maybe if things go smoothly for a decent amount of time, then we'll probably see her wanting to do more or be a little bit more vocal about wanting to do more. Who knows? But where she is, Triple H is happy. She's definitely happy. So you know, or more power to Mia Yim, and I'm actually quite excited to see what now happens with her, especially with the backing of Triple H.
Yeah.
Steve says here, big up Steve. He says, spot on. If she was happy to be reckoning, then she'll be very happy in this spot. Seems to be a big spot to come back into WWE storylines.
Definitely.
Agreed.
Definitely. Most certainly. Speaking of Raw as well from last night, actually, let's go back just a little bit to Crown Jewel. Bobby Lashley versus Brock Lesnar 2. Good match. Bobby Lashley beat the hell out of Brock Lesnar. Did absolutely. I'm going to mention this match as well because they seem like it was literally like the parallel. Omos and Braun Strowman, because Omos beat down on Braun Strowman, and then with both matches, Brock Lesnar and Braun Strowman just did something and won the match. Like how? I've seen many people on the Twitter saying how, you know, it was a good way to kind of protect both men, especially with the Omos one. Keep Lashley strong against Brock Lesnar. Obviously, he beat him down. Kind of like, you know, a bit of a hiccup. That was the reason why he lost, kind of thing. How do you guys see with both of these matches? To me, they were both parallel. The big black man beats down on the big white man, but then I'm not turning it into a race thing. I'm not.
Oh my God.
I'm just saying that was what it was. I'm not. But I did say
wow.
But I did say that on purpose.
Oh gosh.
But then,
wow.
But then, both Braun Strowman and Brock Lesnar come out of it beat down, but winners. How does that help? Whether we're talking about Lashley or Omos, does it work?
Gerard, do you want to go first?
Sure. I think it does because I think in both cases we saw elevation. So let me start with Omos first. I think this was the best match we've ever seen from Omos.
100%.
Bar none.
Yep.
It was evident to me like, whoa, okay, you've gotten some things together. Like, okay, some of this stuff is really starting to pay off for you. And so I don't know that anybody thought going into that particular match that Omos would win just because it's the first match back for Strowman.
Right.
But I think Omos really showed a lot. And this is one of the, I think both of these are cases where you don't win, but you win. You know, so I think for Omos, he didn't get his hand raised, but the fact that that's the best match we saw him in, that says a lot for him. Now, Braun Strowman's a whole nother situation, him going off on Twitter, blah, 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 blah. He got himself in trouble, which to me makes Omos look even better, right? True. So Omos ends up really kind of winning this whole thing because everybody's forgotten that Strowman won because of his own foolishness after the match. As for Bobby Lashley, you guys are phenomenal in talking about, you know, character development and arc and things of that nature. I think that's what this match did.
Yeah.
This match showed and gave us that edge that I know you both have been looking for Lashley.
Been missing.
Lashley returned to being a killer.
Yeah.
And I mean, we have to think about this. In the entire run of Brock Lesnar, nobody has dominated Brock Lesnar the way that Bobby Lashley did this weekend. Nobody. And I just was like, is this really happening? Like, is Brock sick or something and we don't know about it? Like, Brock is getting his butt handed to him. I mean, it was incredible to watch, even after the match, you know? So the whole idea that he never broke, you know, the Hurt Lock, and I kind of wish the commentators had put that over more, but that's a whole nother story.
Right.
But the fact, though, that, you know, he held on to it even while he's losing, like all of those things, and then he carried that into last night on Raw, where, again, he was just a killer. So to me, again, Bobby Lashley comes out of this better because he has that edge that we've been waiting for him to have, the edge that made him world champion twice, you know, the edge that will sit back and go, could Lashley do it again? You know, that's the Lashley we like. And doing that against Brock Lesnar, much like we're talking about Mia and Rhea, doing that against Brock Lesnar, which Roman didn't do, Cena didn't do, Triple H didn't do, puts Lashley finally in that category that we've always believed he could be in. So I think it was really a win for both Lashley and Omos.
Mex, how do you see with Lashley? Is this the sign of the next level where he's heading to? And with everything that he did yesterday, so he attacked Mustafa Ali, he attacked Seth Rollins, of course, and that's what he said he was going to do. He's then attacked Austin Theory, stopping him from cashing in the Money in the Bank. Let me just point out, I don't like the fact that it was the United States Championship that Fury went for, but anyway. But is this all this stuff that he's done? Is it actually a heel turn?
I think it is. I think so. Just on that Saudi Arabia match, when it ended up how it did and Lesnar won, I texted my brother because he's going to WrestleMania, and he said, I think we're getting Bobby versus Brock at WrestleMania. And he's a casual. He don't watch wrestling at all, but he just remembers the old school stuff. And he said, thank God Jesus is alive. So he's looking forward to it, and he don't know nothing about whatever's happening on the day-to-day. With Bobby Lashley, I think that, like Gerard was saying, this is almost like, he has been done bad ever since he lost that US title. He's been, first chasing that, then chasing Brock Lesnar, who was the main cause of that. Now he's almost went back to chasing the people that messed that up for him. I think this is just something else is in the works. I can't help but think last week Bobby Lashley said he wants to reunite the Hurt Business. I can't help but see Shelton Benjamin was on Raw this week. Cedric Alexander was on Raw this week. Almost lost on the weekend. MVP was taken out before Crown Jewel. Like, it's almost like the stars are aligning to try and bring these guys. Nothing is happening for them individually.
Not
like maybe this is Bobby's on-screen attempt to get the band back together. Almost now comes in as like the heavy behind MVP sort of thing. They can put their differences to one side. And we're just building up Bobby back towards WrestleMania, where we assume we're going to get him versus Lesnar part 3, and Bobby gets the big win. That's what I think.
I think that plays out perfectly. He also plays out perfectly to what we were saying about almost about 2 weeks ago or so. Where we were saying the best place for him is to be a heavy and not necessarily center of attention, singles competitor, all that kind of stuff. And I think that would work out perfectly for him. He could still have his singles matches, but it would just feel as though there's less pressure on him to be a single star, which would be great. As we mentioned, things are not going great for the rest of the guys who were in the Hurt Business. So Shelton Benjamin was very vocal a week ago about how he feels about his place and, who he is, and he should be better than, in a better position and all the rest of it. He was on Raw last night as well against Austin Theory. Cedric Alexander hasn't had a great run at all over the last few months. He's been losing to everyone he's faced. So maybe it's high time someone kind of dragged him up and said, right, we're going to sort this out. So it makes complete sense, because in a way, that's exactly how the Hurt Business came together in the first place.
Exactly.
Literally the same way. And it worked out for them. They were tag team champions. Lashley was the world champion. So don't be too surprised at all in the slightest, whether it's MVP or Bobby Lashley, that literally mentions those things in their next promo or when they're trying to get them together. They will literally say, right, we brought you from nowhere. We all became champions, but now nowhere again. What are we doing? Let's sort this out. So for me, it just makes sense. It would be the perfect way to bring them back together. It wouldn't feel random. Even with, the history between Omos and Lashley, their feud and stuff like that, it wouldn't actually feel random to then kind of bring them back together, because they both have a goal of trying to overcome something that has been, been on them for the last couple of weeks or so. So let it happen. I need to go and buy a Hurt Business t-shirt, and if it's got all them for it, let's go. I'll do it. You know what I mean?
Steve says here, 100% heel turn. His mannerisms have been under the surface for weeks. Going back to the match versus Mustafa Ali when he was still champion, his treatment in recent weeks is perfect, set up to be a heel again.
But you know what? The reason why I would still question the heel turn thing is this. even when the Hurt Business became popular, not when they first kind of got together, but I think there was this time they were facing, I think it was Retribution. And they were the ones that kind of got rid of Retribution, all that kind of stuff. They came out still in their suits and backed off the jackets and all that kind of stuff. They were heels then. But then they became popular. In the eyes of the public, they were faces, but everything they were doing was still very much heels.
If you remember, that's why they said that's why they took them apart, because then obviously Drew was going Bobby was going after Drew, and they needed people to cheer Drew, but people were going to cheer Bobby. So
yeah.
So for me, I don't think it doesn't need to be a heel turn. Let me put it that way. It doesn't need to be a heel turn. It definitely does still need to be like what Gerard said. You know, Bobby showing his killer instinct again and all that kind of thing. And with the way the Hurt Business are going to come together, there's a level. Obviously, there's a massive level of frustration with all of them individually. So that's going to play a part. But I don't think it has to be a heel turn to where they're cheating and they're doing this and they're doing that. But they need to have that killer instinct within them in order to get back to where they were, you know, about a year or two ago. So yeah, we'll see how it plays out. If Lashley then pursues Seth Rollins, the whole two heel thing doesn't usually happen. That's another reason why I'm questioning whether it's an actual heel turn. So,
well, and to that point, there's been a lot of ambiguity on Raw. I mean, think about it. Theory, a heel last night, cashing in on the heel Seth Rollins. Seth Rollins, everybody's singing his song, right? And they're cheering. So, I mean, there are pockets of ambiguity that are happening right now in WWE that aren't necessarily a bad thing. It's one of the things, I mean, we dealt with this back in the day with Steve Austin. Is he heel? Is he not? He never really changed his actions. We all just started cheering for him. So I think we're looking at a similar situation in terms of the ambiguity piece, where it may not be necessary for him to be defined as a heel or a face. Just go out and be a killer. And if people like it, cool. And if they don't, they'll let you know. And this way he can lean either way and it'll still work for him.
I think it's perfect in terms of, you know, the character of Bobby. If we do get this Hurt Business back together, it then obviously adds to the massive popularity of Bobby Lashley and those guys as well in general. So I think hopefully we're getting what we're expecting. What happens in between now and WrestleMania, and if we get, you know, Bobby versus Brock again, what happens with Bobby in this space of time is going to be very interesting. And I really think, all in all, I hate getting too excited, especially when it comes to Bobby Lashley, because every time I do, it goes wrong. But I'm really hoping that we're gonna get a legit guy who can beat Roman Reigns.
I think he's going to beat Roman Reigns.
I think there's a possibility. I think if we carries on the way it is, I think they could be building him in a way to where he could be a very realistic contender against Roman Reigns, because everyone that Roman Reigns has faced in the last year, possibly apart from Brock Lesnar, you kind of like, oh, they're not going to win. It's going to be a great match, but they're not going to win.
Okay. Whereas, like calendar-wise, though, where do you think he wins?
It's gonna have to be after Mania. It's going to be after Mania.
So, do you think Roman comes out of Mania still champ?
Yeah, I can't see anyone beating him before that. Who's beating him before that? Really?
I mean, I slightly think he. It's only Cody. If Cody,
it's only Cody or Seth to me. But I think Cody is probably the guy. You know,
okay. I would like to think there's a possibility. I think it's been built enough in a way, and especially with the beatdown of Brock Lesnar that he did, and you know what I mean, like 2-3 weeks in a row, blah blah blah. There's an easy way to make it happen, or it's become easier to make it happen, or to believe that Lashley can beat Roman.
I agree. They should have definitely, you know, tussled by now anyway.
Yeah.
But I'm just trying to think of everything with Roman and how he's being built. Like, what is the benefit of the man that earns that being Bobby Lashley? Like, I feel like the rub
I just think there's no other believable. Yes, we've got the whole Cody, but that's based on popularity more than capability. You've got Seth Rollins, again, a very, very similar thing. Probably a little bit more about capability because we've seen them face each other before, and you know they've had great matches and whatnot. For me, apart from Brock Lesnar, no one else physically should be beating Roman Reigns. That's that. I think that for me, that's the main reason. So with the way he's being built and being protected at the moment, it's very possible. It's very possible.
So I had a thought to answer the question in terms of when Lashley and Roman could touch. Can you imagine Roman and Lashley touching at Royal Rumble?
Oof.
Having the world title match, and Brock costs Lashley the title against Roman in the same way that Roman cost Brock the title against Lashley, setting up our Mania match for Lashley and Lesnar.
That would be brilliant.
That would be perfect. Yeah. That would be perfect.
Like, at the very least for me, before this Roman run ends, Lashley, he has to face Roman.
Face him.
He's one of the last credible people on here. Like, there's other people in the Bloodline story that I thought might take that Royal Rumble spot, like even like Sami Zayn or a Jey Uso. I just think like maybe a Sami Zayn or a Jey Uso, when it's like Roman goes overboard, and then Roman calls one of these men call The Rock, and then that's how The Rock gets introduced to all of this. But like, Bobby Lashley for sure, before this reign ends, needs to have a title shot.
Yeah. I think at the minimum, with the way things are going, that's what needs to happen with Lashley for sure. Moving on just a little bit, and speaking and keeping with the bloodline, we also got on SmackDown this week. It is the Usos versus the New Day. The big thing with this one, this is like the Usos versus the New Day number 150. But the difference with this one is if the Usos win this match, they will definitely will beat the New Day's record of number of days as tag team champions. Do the New Day end this run, or do the Bloodline add another durational record to the faction? Mex, what do you think is going to happen with this one?
The Bloodline, I was confident the Bloodline are taking it. The Bloodline will take it. However, after the promo on Raw, where the New Day basically said how this is more than just 400 whatever days it is. This is us overcoming the struggle of being saddled with a gimmick that wasn't getting over, not knowing if we're going to keep our jobs, having to start YouTube channels to basically get over. Like the passion, that the delivery, that whole segment, like them man dominated along with their match, like the first 45 minutes, 50 minutes of Raw. And I just felt like, this is gonna be harsh for them, like, because let's be honest, the New Day aren't really doing much of anything these days at all. Like, so at least them stopping the Bloodline in their tracks, and winning the titles, protecting their legacy as well, that could be something. Maybe they just do what they did with these women's titles, let the New Day win it, quick switcheroo a couple weeks down the line, put it back on the Usos. I mean, I don't really want to see that, but they could do something like that. But yeah, I just feel like I feel bad. I feel bad now that the Usos are gonna probably take this legacy from them. I'm expecting an Uso win, if I'm very honest. But at the same time, with the stakes being so high and being what it is, there is still in the back of my mind this possibility that the New Day could win, just to protect their legacy and all that kind of stuff. Gerard, would you see as a, I don't know if disrespect is too far a word, but would you see as a disrespect for the Usos to win, or the WWE to make the decision for the Usos to win and then the New Day lose that part of their legacy?
It's hard to say. I mean, it's not like the Usos are, the Moondogs or something, right? Like, the Usos have proven over time that they are an incredible tag team. They've proven that. So it wouldn't be like, okay, this is some horrible team that's run of the mill and we're just, going to slap this record on them. They've certainly earned that distinction. So it's hard. Now, particularly after that promo last night, which I just thought we just heard the heart of the New Day in a way we have not heard in a long time.
Very long.
Because to your point, I think after all that's happened with Big E and the like, New Day has kind of been on their Mia Yim status, right? Like, we're just happy to be here. We're just happy to collect this check.
Yeah.
But I think we got to see their passion. And we know whenever the New Day and the Usos get together, it's always a banger. I think they're going for blood. And I think one of two things will happen. Obviously, the writing's on the wall that the Usos win the titles or retain the titles. But can you imagine the Usos losing and it's a result of this Sammy J thing? And now we start to see the cracks in the bloodline. There's a very realistic possibility that the Usos lose this title match. And it sends shockwaves throughout the bloodline in a way that none of this other stuff has. So I don't think it's a foregone conclusion that the Usos win. And I think if you want to keep the people talking Friday night, let the Usos get that close and lose it. And now Roman tears into them because you guys weren't focused. You didn't do what I asked you to do. You've not been following. And now look what it cost us. We could be the greatest and we could hold all the records, but you put the chink in the armor and the seeds begin.
And it could be a thing where they just wasn't feeling oozy enough and lose the
that part. I mean, think about this. What if Jey Uso ends up getting pinned?
Right.
And it's because he didn't listen to what Sammy told him to do.
Ooh.
Now we have a place where Sammy becomes Sammy Uso and replaces Jey in the tag team. And can you imagine Jimmy and Sammy regaining the tag titles?
No, Gerard, you're killing me. That would be crazy.
Dude, it would be nuts, right?
It would be crazy. Perfect. I do believe though there is this very, very strong chance now actually that the Usos lose it because of Sami Zayn in some sort of way. Because at the same time as well, it protects the Usos because of it's interference, it's a mistake, it's so and so, blah blah blah. And then of course we'll get the next chapter of this whole storyline with Jey and Sammy and the bloodline in general. So it would actually make a lot of sense for them to lose in that way. So that's very possible. I'm kind of edging towards that being more the thing than actually the Usos winning. And again, it gives Roman another chance to question the bloodline and all the rest of it. And Sammy and I think that's what happens. I'm hoping Triple H is watching the show and he's like, you know what, actually, that works because I actually think that would be perfect. I actually think that would be perfect.
Do you think Usos win it back, or if the new tag team of Sammy and Jimmy win it back, and then I don't know, freebird it with Jey? Because I don't know. I still think this whole thing of Sami Zayn and Kevin Owens forming a partnership to win the tag team championships at WrestleMania, that's still in my head. Whether I put that there myself, I don't know. But I mean, Kevin Owens could play into something like this, to be fair.
Yeah. I mean, there's more than enough time for it to be a thing where, I mean, if we don't have this Sammy and Jimmy thing, there will still be more than enough time to create enough story and whatever else for either the bloodline to turn on Sammy or Jey specifically to turn on Sammy, and Kevin Owens is the one that saves him, and then we get Sammy and Kevin versus the Usos at WrestleMania. Whether it be for the championships or not, I don't think it would actually matter. It would help. It would be better. It would then be a thing where if Sammy and Kevin win, they're tag team champions. Of course, that adds to the spectacle and the victory. But I don't think it has to have the championships involved. But then at the same time, with the way the New Day have been for most of this year, them winning the tag team championships, it's either a redemption or it would feel like a little forced or a little bit out of nowhere. So they wouldn't then need to have to go on some long run as tag team champions. So if they lose it again before Mania, then the Usos got it back, and then the whole thing with Sammy and Kevin happens. Boom, boom, boom. I mean, there's more than enough time for all sorts of things to happen. Basically,
they are winning, isn't it? They're gonna win.
I'm telling you.
Oh my gosh. They're gonna win on
I
Friday,
think
aren't
it's
they?
a very strong possibility. I now think it's a very strong possibility.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Extremely strong.
I think Roman's at SmackDown on Friday. I think he's been advertised for the show.
Okay.
Which will be interesting. It'll add an extra layer if he's there and they lose.
Of course. He'll be speaking to them throughout the night. Then it comes to the main event. Sammy's gonna get involved throughout the night, and then it comes to the main event. Boom. It all plays out. I really think it's gonna happen. I'll be very happy if that happens. If I'm honest, actually.
I would too.
Not just for the New Day winning. I'm not really overly fussed about the New Day winning. Them protecting their legacy, yes. So I guess for me, it's that more than anything, or just seeing them holding championships. It's them protecting their legacy. But at the same time, for me, more than anything, it's just adding a layer now to this storyline that's been great. But I for the last couple of weeks, I've been like, all right, so where is it actually going? So if something like this happens, it answers that question very easily, very easily. So yeah,
they needed this. Crown Jewel, I think, was the first time Usos have defended those titles in ages.
So it's been a while.
They needed this story, and it looks like we're gonna get a bit of a twist come Friday.
Imagine. Let's move on and go to this one. Speaking of tag teams, we also have in AEW the Acclaimed will face Swerve in Our Glory at Full Gear. That is this Saturday, right?
Next Saturday.
Or is it next Saturday? Okay,
yeah,
cool.
Next Saturday.
Full Gear. Obviously, we've seen kind of a few things play out. Swerve is kind of on his own little mission while Keith Lee is trying to work out what the hell he's doing. And you know, the Acclaimed are just coming out and just getting the greatest responses in, you know, tag team wrestling right now. Mex, what are you seeing happening with this? Not even just the match, but more so the build-up. Are we going to get more of a friction between Swerve and Lee? Or, you know, or will that all play out in the match?
I think in the match, something is going to happen in that match, which is going to just be, you know, the straw that breaks the camel's back, or Keith Lee's back, and then he's not gonna have it anymore. Like he's identified already. We're very different people. That we came together to win, and as long as we were winning, I can bear that you are this person, sort of thing. But if they have this second match, the championship match, and they don't win again, that's going to drive a wedge from the story that they're telling. And ultimately, like I say, I think something's going to happen in the match that's just going to, you know, call it quits between the two. And then, maybe get a nice little singles feud between them, which will be good.
Accusations.
Yes.
Accusations.
I just wanted to do that all show.
Give that man a contract. Oh, Rick Ross was
fast.
Brilliant. Listen,
he was
so good. It was so good. I think he, you know, with all this stuff that they've done with AEW and having some hip hop acts kind of just come out of nowhere. It literally has felt like that. They've just come out of nowhere. All felt forced. All of them looked like they didn't know where they were and what they were doing there. Whereas Rick Ross was like, right, I'm here. Let me show you how you do this thing. And it was so on point. It was ridiculous. Gerard, what are you seeing with this whole thing as well playing out? Are the Acclaimed still going away with the tag team championships? Is it gonna be more about Swerve and Lee having a big bust up? Like, where's this going?
I think it's both. You know, I think the Acclaimed right now is so hot. AEW is not going to dare take the tag titles off of them. And I think that, you know, the breakup, which has been teased now for a while between Keith Lee and Swerve, I think the breakup is finally going to happen at Full Gear. And I think it's going to be ugly. I think it's going to be an ugly breakup. Like, it's not just going to be, oh my God, we lost, one shove, we walk away. I think it's going to be ugly. You know, and so, I think that's what's going to happen. Now, it's kind of unfortunate because I think lost in all of this is the fact that Swerve and Our Glory never really got their just due. Even though they were tag team champions, they were always looked at as kind of, just kind of two guys thrown together, not a really great team who has beat a lot of other great teams. I mean, like, that's the unfortunate part in all of this. But I think it's going to go down that way. Swerve obviously going in his own direction. Keith Lee trying to be the stand-up guy. I'd be highly surprised if they walked out as tag team champions. Highly surprised.
Oh yeah. I think the writing's on the wall with that. It's more so, seeing how it plays out, what it then means for Swerve and Lee. I think my eyes are more on that than the popularity of the Acclaimed, which is amazing, phenomenal, and great. And I want to see that carry on and all the rest of it. I want to see where that goes. But I think for me, when it comes down to picking one of the two, it's definitely Lee and Swerve, and seeing where that goes. Gerard, we touched on this character change or this character development of Swerve on last week's show. Give us your thoughts on how, we've got this kind of like this menacing guy who's also black, but then he's not some comedy character like the Boogeyman, for example. He's still also a rapper. He's still this, he's still that. Like, how different is this whole character of Swerve in wrestling?
I think for Swerve, it is consistent, and it is the evolution of what we saw in NXT. In NXT, he did have kind of that dark side, and we weren't really sure which side of the fence he was on. And then the whole thing that they had with Legado del Fantasma was a lot of that, we're going to beat you down in the parking lot, capture you, do all kinds of craziness. I think he gets to build on that kind of darkness right now, which it's interesting. Right now in AEW, there aren't very many dark characters. Now that the House of Black really isn't doing what it was doing, there's nobody filling that role right now. So I think he gets the chance to do that. And I think a lot of this actually feels a wee bit authentic to him. So it doesn't feel like he's trying to be this bad or this evil or whatever. He just kind of has that side to him, and he's letting that play out. And so, it feels natural. Doesn't feel forced at all for Swerve. So it's going to be interesting to see where they develop this, because this is more on the sports entertainment side of things that I don't know that AEW has necessarily figured out how to do well. So it'll be interesting to see what happens.
We also saw as well, we've had this announcement of a tournament for, what do they call it again? When I don't even
the Eliminator tournament.
The Eliminator tournament, that's the one. Just they use words in AEW, and sometimes it's just like, where did that come from? The Eliminator tournament for the AEW World Championship. Obviously, we're going to see Moxley versus MJF at Full Gear. But whoever comes out as champion will face the winner of this tournament. Now, on Rampage, I believe it was, Ricky Starks announced his participation in the match with a promo. And as we know, Ricky Starks is very much over right now with the crowd. Anything he says gets a massive cheer and all the rest of it. But he was very much talking about facing Jon Moxley for the championship. And then obviously touched on, even if it is MJF, I'll face the devil himself and blah, blah, blah. How realistic do we see Ricky Starks challenging or coming close to being a winner of this? Does he win this tournament? Mex, what do you think?
No, I don't think so. So, I think I'm correct in saying that the winner of the tournament gets a title shot at Winter's Coming, which is early December, mid-December, or something like that. We assume MJF is going to be champion by then.
Yep.
So, I think the winner of this tournament, just to be fair, now that I say it like that, it could be someone like Ricky Starks. It could be someone that's just like, someone that the crowd can get behind.
Yep.
And, cheer him on against, obviously, the dastardly MJF. This will probably be MJF's first feud. So, it very much could be. I'm just trying to remember off the top of my head who else is in the tournament. I know Ethan Page is, Lance Archer is.
You got Eddie Kingston, Ethan Page, Bandito, Rouge, Dante Martin, Brian Cage, Lance Archer, and Ricky Starks.
Wow. That's a decent. That sounds a little bit more, just a little bit more like a TNT tournament, but it's a good group of people who are on a very similar level. You can't, and the reason I said wow is because I can't pick a winner.
Mhm.
There's no standout in my mind, at least. There's no standout winner there. Any of those guys could have a good chance or get close, all that kind of stuff, and you know, be the first feud of MJF's reign. They'll lose, but
Yeah.
that's why I think again it's you know, it could be anyone.
In that case, I think I take it back and I'll say that Ricky Starks probably could win because I mean, when I think about it, this isn't winter is coming. It's not a pay-per-view. It's just a TV special.
Right.
So we don't need to think about, is this person a draw? They're going to sell tickets, all of that kind of stuff.
Mm.
Ricky Starks can verbally spar with MJF between November and December. You know, if it's Bandido or someone else, you know, you might struggle with like English, Dante Martin. Maybe that's not his strongest suit. And when you going up against MJF, you can't be a slouch. The only other person, maybe Eddie Kingston. Eddie Kingston could probably go there as well. But yeah, I think Eddie Kingston, Ricky Starks, now that we put it like that, is probably good choices.
I think even Page would be something as well, only because of the history of what's the faction called again? The
Pinnacle or Firm.
Yeah.
So you've got that little history there, and with it being a thing where we're not expecting him to, you know, take the title or whatever else, it could play out as something. But yeah, out of that group, I think you're right, Mix, in choosing Eddie Kingston, Ricky Starks. And for me, a third could be Ethan Page. Especially with it being a thing where there's gonna be weeks in between their match and you know, Full Gear and whatever else. There needs to be something in between. Bandido, Roosh, very good competitor, but then what do we do in between? I'm not too sure what you can do with, you know, with both guys in between that time. So yeah, it's gonna be a war of words, and the same three that we picked, a war of words with MJF would be amazing between any of those three guys. So it's gotta be one of those three. It can't be anyone else. But then to see either of them get through any of those opponents is going to be interesting as well. So I think this tournament could actually be, I think could be entertaining. But just as long as Ricky Starks wins, I'm good.
Well, his first round opponent is Lance Archer, so that should be kind of interesting for him. And should he win, which I imagine he would, he'd face the winner of Brian Cage and Dante Martin, which seems like that'd be Brian Cage. So story-wise, it seems like him and Brian Cage in a match together because of former Team Taz stuff makes sense. And the winner of that ends up in the finals. So could be interesting.
That sounds very interesting indeed. Yeah, that sounds good. Mex, there was something that you wanted to touch on as well in AEW regarding Jade Cargill. Jade Cargill said something about the women, AEW women, would have 5-star matches if given a longer time. Mex, talk to me about this, please.
Yeah, so I'm not sure. I'm assuming this came from an interview that she may have had. She came out and said that the women are obviously just as able to have 5-star matches and stuff, but they're not given the time. Now, I thought it was an interesting conversation because there is a correlation. If we're to draw a graph here, there is a correlation between length of match to get into 4.5 5-star matches and stuff. There definitely would be. Are the women on the AEW roster capable of a 5-star match? I think you could possibly pick a couple, and it's not all down to ability. It's obviously down to story as well, and how well that story plays out in the ring. I'm just not sure Jade Cargill needed to come out with a phrase like this following her match with Marina Shafir last week.
I think it doesn't maybe not come great coming from Jade, given, you know, the length of her matches, what she's done in her matches, how, you know, she's still green, as most people are saying, as much as she's improved and continues to improve, and that's a great thing. But at the same time, I think she speaks facts. But again, even still, there are not many women who could put under 5-star match, but we have definitely seen, you know, outstanding matches from some of the women, in particular Britt Baker and Thunder Rosa, and some of the matches that they've had, especially the really violent, bloody ones and all that kind of stuff. And it's just played out correct. The likes of Serena Deeb, who's just great in the ring. It's possible. How possible isn't like a high percentage, but at the same time, it's possible. So yes, it speaks facts. I'm sure people on Twitter who anyone's commented or when they want to comment, I guarantee you, people will be questioning why is Jade saying this, because Jade could never have a 5-star match. I'm sure that's what's happening. I guarantee that's happening. But at the same time, she's definitely speaking a level of facts, because as Mick said, there's a correlation between time and 5 stars. We have women that are capable enough. We've seen, them have great matches in the past. And I think as well, what goes against them, and it's not their fault, is just in general the way AEW just haven't backed the women, or just don't trust them enough, or the booking, whatever it is. So it's doable, just as it would be doable almost anywhere else. You know what I mean? I think it's one of those. Gerard, what do you think about this?
I think you guys are right. Like, there is an issue when it comes to time. I mean, I think about just what happened this weekend at Crown Jewel, Bianca and Bailey, the time that they were given for a last woman standing match. It was phenomenal. And they had time to tell their story, so to some degree, we don't necessarily know whether or not the women at AEW could. I mean, if we're basing it off of the 5-minute matches we've seen, maybe that's not a fair assumption. Maybe they could. But I think the problem then is, okay, when you have enough television time and pay-per-view time to give to them, so if you're going to run a 4-hour pay-per-view, you don't need 15 matches. Cut some of them off and say, we're going to give the women 20 minutes and let them go. We see 9 or 10 matches on a 2-hour episode of Dynamite. So there's no chance for the women to even show us whether or not they're capable of that. So I think she raises a point, and I do think she's speaking on behalf of the entire women's division. It doesn't necessarily have to be her, but what woman have they given 20 minutes to be able to say, go out there and kill it? It's very, very rare. So I think we need to give them that opportunity, and somebody's got to believe in them long enough to say, here it is, go work it.
Yep, that's very true. And it just seems to be this ongoing thing of us having some kind of issue with the way the women's division is being booked and being handled and all the rest of it. I think I've seen very slight changes of improvement. With Saraya being there, I think it kind of has done something. But there's still time for that to play out. We don't know exactly where it's going. Is she going to wrestle again, or the rest of it? We just don't know. So we'll see how it works. We'll see what happens, and go from there, I guess. You know what I mean? But guys, this has been our time. This has been WrstlXtra. You're watching on the WrestleManiac UK YouTube channel, while Roger's trying to duck behind me like I can't see him, but we can see absolutely everything he's doing. You all guys, you can follow this guy Gerard Bonner on the Faction Show on both Instagram and Twitter, Bonafide as well. This guy Mex, the WrestleManiac, on WrestleManiac.uk on Instagram, and WrestleManiac UK on Twitter. You can follow me if you're not already. You know where I am, you know who I am, but I'll tell you anyway. It's Black Wrestling Lines on Instagram, BWA Dazzle on Twitter. Guys, this has been our time. Thank you for being here. Thank you for watching, whether you're live or later on. This is us done. See you next time. Peace.